Alrighty, now we're back. Um, I think what we'll do today is we'll review some of these fittings that we used yesterday, go into a little more detail with them, and then we'll come back. We'll draw a little bit more of this riser, and then we'll come in and we'll offset some duct around. Like this duct is hitting that steel. This duct is going to collide with that when we draw it out. And then on the third and final duct video, we will go and do some detailing. And I think that'll cover a lot of the fittings and what you have to do to manipulate it for shop drawings. And that should be it. So anyways, let's get started. We'll come over here and we'll look at these fittings that we were working with yesterday. First one was this takeoff. And by default, these are drawn out of the center, coming out of the side. And you can move them laterally this way with no problem. Moving them up and down, though, come over here. Moving them up and down is another question. Let's change the size of this. Duct modify. Duct modify. Let's make that a little. Oh, that's pretty deep. Let's change this to 10 by 10. Duct modify. Yeah, that was right. 10 and 10. Just so you can see that a little bit better. By default, though, you cannot. These are anchored in there, and you can't raise those other than to use. Well, I mean, you can do it. There's a couple different ways, but one, there's this tool that's in here. If you go to Duct Properties, I just spent 20 minutes in here, and I cannot figure out how to raise those things up and down with these tools. I can move it this way. But why this tool would move it this way when all I'd have to do is drag it, I don't know. In '07, it worked out well. It wasn't this complicated. AutoCAD once again has given us way too many options here. And another thing is they don't have an apply button here. So every time you want to come in here, you want to play with this, try to figure out how to use it. You got to close out of it and then reopen it every time, and it's just it's worthless. It's a piece of garbage. So I don't use it. You can play with it if you want, try to figure it out. But all I do is I'll just come in here and go like this, erase that, move this up with 0, 0, we'll go up 6 inches, 6, enter, enter, that goes up, and then reconnect. And it's right where you want it. And then if you get one that's stubborn and you just can't get it to sometimes it happens. I mean, you get in some places where it just won't reconnect. Just come over here in your ISO view, and this is not going to do you any good. You're going to lose your connection, and I'll tell you why it's bad. But explode, and you got yourself a block. And if you explode it one more time, you got yourself a 3D solid. So, but the problem with that is when you go to, if you're auto routing, right, and you go to move, say this, it's not going to move with it. So you have to be careful if you're going to do it that way. So I would say 95% of the time, though, you could just erase that duct, drop it down, and reconnect without any issues whatsoever. Or you can play with that tool and try to get it to work. I've probably spent a couple of hours trying to understand it, and the fact is that I don't think it works correctly. But it's way overdone. I can tell you that. If you're running duct, I'll say if you're running duct, here's another little tip. If you're running duct, say underneath, or you get a duct and you might be running next to it and you want to stop, and then all of a sudden it wants to connect to that duct, and you don't want it to. Let's say you wanted to stop that underneath that duct. Use this lock right here. Just come in here and lock that elevation. And it won't connect. You keep it from connecting. That's another little tip. Yesterday we also used some elbows, and we'll go into these elbows a little bit. We'll see the different types that they have in there. Let's look at all the different types. Let's copy this out. Okay, so you know that you can come in here and go duct modify, right? And you've got this one in here. I don't think it's kind of worthless. I mean, it may have some benefit to you whatsoever. Let's just go ahead and apply that. It's got the properties already set, and you can adjust that throat length. Apply. Click OK. And you can adjust that throat length. I mean, I would never build that, so I don't know. You might find a use for it, but I've never used one yet since 2004, since I've been using the program. Duct modify. And there's that the rectangular elbow with the throats. And you can come in here. This one here, the difference from the one that auto routes is you can put a throat on it. This way and this way. And you can adjust the angle path, which is 90, 45, whatever. It gives you all the options, but and you can change it, the width of it. You can make a change elbow. So in other words, we got a 40-inch there. We could make this a 38. Apply. And it changes that to 38. Let's see what we got here. Duct fitting modify. What we got next? Okay, this one here is I don't know if this is supposed to be a drop cheek elbow, but it's not. It's a reducing elbow radius. It's a little restricted for that part, but you really can't adjust the top and the bottom. I mean, it center lines it. So in other words, let's just go in here, and we will try to make this. So we're 40 by 24. Let's say we wanted to go to 20 deep. It's not letting me. And we'll go 34 wide. We'll click apply. Click OK. Boom. And as you can see here, distance from here to here, it's 2 inches down from the top. Now there's no way to flatten that out, which is kind of worthless. As most of your jobs, you're going to want to try to stay flat on top or flat on bottom. And I'll show you the only workaround I know how to do, and show you the rest of it. I mean, you can make those angles a little more correct, and here you can go 1 times or 1.5 times, and I think you can even type in 2 and get it double the radius. Okay. Click apply. Yeah, you can. That's pretty wild. That's pretty wild there, though. Click apply. That would be your 1.5 times. Then you've got your elbow angles. You could change it to 60 degree. can also come in there and type one if you wanted. 74, click apply. Let's bring that back to 90. Okay, let's say you did want to make this flat on top. The only way I know how to do it, and the quick way I know how to do it. I mean, most of your drop TKLs are you know 6-7 inches about all you're going to get out of them. I just raise this duct up right in front of it. Move. So we were 2 inches. Move 0, 0, 2. Enter, enter. So that way now I mean I know it's going to look funky, especially in Navis, but there's nothing you can do, and your duct is at the right height here. And you could just tag this flat on top, or if you wanted it to go down 6, you could make it go down 6, and you could just write 6 and just lower your duct. Other than that, you could actually go in and try to draw it in 3D, or you could find a programmer that could build you one, or you could go into and try to build you one yourself. I've looked around and nobody's successfully done it, so it's a problem. So let's look at a couple of these other elbows. There's a radius throat. I don't personally use these. I mean, you could, but you're still going to have to put vanes in it, so why even do it? Now you can adjust the radius. Duct fitting modify. So yeah, radius throughout. You can adjust it. 12. Apply. But you know, you're still going to have to put vanes in that. So with a hard heel on it like that. This is kind of backwards. You actually should put a radius heel and a square throat elbow in this program, but they don't have one. So I've never used it since I've started using the program. That there, I couldn't build that because it actually has no throat. Look at that. It's kind of funny. Click apply. And I'm not sure how I would ever build that. I mean, you have to have some sort of a throat there. I can't even believe that's actually in the ASHRAE catalog. I haven't really bothered taking the time to look, but I can't believe it. So you probably won't ever use that one. And there's your radius, 1.5, or 1 times 1.5 and 2. That's just a regular radius. You can't change anything other than the angle path and the size. And then of course there's your regular old elbow with a 2-inch throat on it, and that you use in auto routing. Apply. Let's look at transitions. And we'll come in here, we're 40 by 24. Let's change this to 36. That's going to come up and ask you this. I like to leave it at 30 because that's probably your best angle to give you the 7-to-1 ratio that most engineering companies want you to do. But as you will see, it won't hold. If we're just going to go the width, it should turn out pretty well. If you wanted to change the length on that, and you were just, you didn't change the depth of it, duct fitting modify. You could change your angles. Go to 15. Click apply. And you could tweak this. You could go 50. So in other words, if you're in there detailing it, you had to have one that was say 19 inches. You can't really do it. You could use another fitting with this. Hold on a second. Provided that you're not changing your depths. I believe it's this one here. Transition length. You could come in here and go 19. Click apply. Click OK. Oh, that's funny. Oh, what happened? Alright, well, I have to erase that. I tell you what I normally do is I usually pull these things off of here, work with them, and then connect them back. Click fitting modify. This is the only one I think that has a length, transition length that's going to get you flat on the right, but you can't keep it center lined. These two at the bottom will do lengths. Tap length. Tap length is that little break line there. Transition length. 16. Oh, it's already 17. Let's try 30. There you go. And if you wanted to have a little tap length in there, you could. But that's if you're flat on top. If you were changing in the depth, you couldn't use this one because it has no control over it, so you couldn't get it flat on top. So, and you'll have to get in here and play with all these. There's just a lot of different scenarios, and it really just shouldn't be. It should just be one fitting in there that does everything. But let me see here. Okay, so let's do one real quick. It changes both directions. So we'll go to 38. We'll click to 30. And we'll take this down to 20. It's going to ask you again to 30. And you can see how short that's drawn that. And it's center lined it. Now you could choose to go flat on top on your auto routing. Come in here, go flat, top, go 38 by 20. We'll go like that. And it does draw it flat on top. But you're not going to build that right there. 6-inch fitting. That thing will not survive. Too hard to get those into the Pittsburgh machine, and it just won't. Well, actually, that's going to be a TDC. I mean, the last thing you want to do is build a 6-inch long in TDC. That'd be crazy. But any fitting, I mean, you just can't. They'll fall apart. I mean, they won't make the trip even. They'll probably fall apart in a truck. Handle on them. It's too hard to keep them together. Well, let's go back. I'm sorry. So what we'll do is modify. Now that's a generic thing. It really, you can change the height up and down and the width. It's got a little bit, but you can't change the length. So in other words, you can change this width factor here. Apply. And it gives it a little offset. That really is kind of worthless because You can go in there, you could type in and force in a length, and you click apply, and you see now it's changed. It's no longer flat on top. It's risen up 3 or 4 inches or distance to the top. It's 4 inches. So we'll go back. The only way to change the length is to choose another fitting. This fitting here will let you change the length. You have to do it by the angle. And when you have these things that are flat on top, if you change it into that, it's the only fitting in here that will allow you to do it. So you're going to have to use the angle to adjust the length. There's 30. You come down here to 10. You can come in and measure it, and then if you needed it, you could actually tweak it and go to 7. And it's going to force you in there. Click apply, and it's going to make it a little bit longer. That's the way I do that. So you'll have to play with them. They're not easy. And then if all else fails, and I think I've showed this in some other videos on the blog. There's actually another video specifically for transitions that you probably need to go look at. But let's say that this was duct length, modify, duct modify. We'll change this to 38 by 20. Click apply. Let's say you had a really bastard offset. You just didn't have time to mess with it, and you wanted to go this way, and you wanted to go this way. You wanted to transition it, offset it, all in one. You're probably going to have a heck of a time getting that to work inside of with those fittings. I mean, you can, but you're going to spend 20-30 minutes trying to get it to work. Secret here is the 3D Polyline. Come in. And draw it as a 3D polyline. Then come over here, you match properties, and there you go, and you could detail it out. Now if you had duct running under there and you wanted to get hidden line, you won't get a hidden line effect with this. You could take and you could make this a block. Call it whatever you want. Trans 1. Click OK. And you have a block. And you want to convert it to a multi-view part. Name it Trans 1. You can pick anything here. It doesn't matter. You can pick something close if you wanted to. I just leave it a fan. Anything, category, cable, all that stuff, I just leave it there. Click OK, click OK. Now you have a part. And then you'll get hidden line effect under it. Well, you get the picture. And basically what you want to do is you want to get rid of that block. It didn't get rid of it.
So you got hidden line. Now when you put this in the Navis, it's going to come into the wireframe, and but you should get class detection on it. So that's the best I can do. I don't know any other way to do it other than to buy a third-party program that draws them. And you know, you're going to have jobs where you're going to need to do that if you're going to detail out. So those are things that we used, and there's a few more in there. We'll go through them as we use them. So in other words, so now we're going to draw this duct down to here, and let's go ahead and offset underneath this one. So we're going to draw down here. We're crashing, right? So you come in here, you're going to see you're crashing. You can test this, and we're 3 7/8. So you want to be down 4, 7, 9 inches, so that you can insulate. Well, it's an exhaust duct. You wouldn't have to go down 9, so we want to go down 7. So we can go in here. We'll section that off. Give it some duct lengths, and we will take this. I take this and I'll move it. Make sure your ortho's on. Move it up to about right there. Alright, we'll move it. Move it down 7. Move. 0, 0, minus 7. Enter, enter. Come back here. And reconnect. Now, it's only going to give you 245s and a piece in the middle. It's not going to give you an offset. Now, it's going to go 30 degrees, and you can change that by entering N, enter, and next. It'll give you 22 and a half, 15, next. You can just hit enter, enter 30, enter 22 and a half, enter 15, enter 30. You can look at it over there. 22 and a half looks to be about the, well, actually you can get to 15. Hit 15, hit A for accept, enter. And then what I normally do is I'll just detail that out, make it look like a fitting on top in plan view. And I'll show you that when we do some detailing. You could go in and try the offset. It's very limited. Let's pull over here and look at that offset. Let's grab a piece of duct. And there's a fitting offset. Now you can connect to this. And it should supposed to connect. Let's just look at the options here. What size do we have? 7 by 7. Let's try that again. Offset. It's not finding the size. Oh, it's because it's an oval. Offset. I never used this fitting, so I don't know much about it. Duct rectangular. Let's go to rectangular offset. And you got quite a few options in here, but I can never get them to work correctly. Let's try that one. There's a generic one. It just goes. It's an offset. What we're actually looking for is a rise. Offset up and down. click that. We'll go over here and we'll look at it. Now, you can rotate that. That's not going to do you any good. So let's go Duct modify. We'll look at these. You got the offset length. Let's see what we got here. And that's the offset. So 1 inch to 24. And it's just doesn't have all the sizes. You can go down to 12 very easily. Click apply. Okay. That's an OG. That's what that is. Okay. And the shoulder length, which is got to be the little right there. Click apply. Does nothing. Okay. That's your connection type. Let's try to type one in there. I've never tried that. 14. Click OK. Click apply. Yeah, it does go. So you could force it in there. But it's certainly not going up and down though, is it? And that's what they're calling it, is a offset up. I mean, I imagine you could rotate it. It's not going to work. Offset right, offset left, offset radius. This is something you're going to have to go and look at, because we could spend a week in here. Offset distance. Offset distance. Yeah, I would just go ahead and just play with them, because I don't know enough about them to teach you anything about them. I don't use them because I can never get them to work. Too much time. And like I said, I just detail these out, make it look like a fitting, like it's an offset. Just kind of give it a length. 33, and then I'll come over here and do a little arrow down. And then put down 7 or whatever in there, right next to it. I'll show you that. Or you could, if you really think you want to have offset in there, you can go ahead and play with them. Alright, so, and we talked about yesterday, when you're running these things out of the side like that, it's the only way I know how to do them. And you can use that lock layer, or lock your elevation, and come out of the side. Rectangular, 40 by 24. You want it 26 by 26. 26 by 26. And just come in here to the ISO view, stay at 90 degrees, and it draws out. And I just erase it. And come in here and tweak it. So the tap's going up. If you want to change it to go down, find the little arrows. Up. The little arrows there, we'll flip them. In this case, we want to change the length on it. Modify. Go in there, my custom part. Like 8. Now yesterday I finally figured out this fire dampers. Let's draw One connects, the round connects automatically. And I don't know if this is something that if it's a setting or what. And the rectangular does not. So in other words, when you're putting these fire dampers in here, let's just change the size of this to something that would be a one-piece fire damper. 10 by 10. Click apply. And there's your rectangular fire damper. And if you've seen yesterday, we did the same thing. Now that one actually cut in there. That's a good deal. Okay, well, we saw yesterday they didn't. And the round does. It actually goes in there in size, and then if you want to adjust the length, you can do modify. Come in there, 20. Let's see. Add selector. Yeah, well, maybe since I rebooted it might have a problem. They seem to be working today. Okay, that's a good thing. Let's see here what else we can show you. So that duct, we offset that. Come in here, there's a little auto routing trick you need to know. I need to pull this tight to this. It's going to be a nested fitting, which you have to draw by hand. But I need to get this tight to this so that I can nest it. And of course, it's easy to do it this way with your object tracking. But then you're going to want to have to move this. It's pretty easy. You got distance here to here. Is 9 1/16. So normally you would just take this and drag it back 9. Then you could drag it back a 16th, or you could do however you want to do it. What you have to watch out is it's going to drag some of this stuff, and sometimes it'll drag this off of here. See what it did there is we had that running right along there. No, it did it pretty good. What it does is it stretched this piece right here. So in other words, if you had this already detailed out, you'd have to go back and you have to look at that. And what I normally do is I'll just take that piece and delete it, move it back 9. That way that you're still going to have to delete. You're still going to have to go in here and modify something, especially if you're already sectioned off and whatnot. But you just have to watch whenever you move this stuff after you've got it placed. You have to watch how it moves, because you could, especially if you have really long runs and you come in and you move something like this over. You think if you drag the elbow over like that, I mean, it could move something way down here or not move something way down here, and that you don't want moved. So it's just something you have to be aware of. I'm going to move that other 16th. Move it 1/16. It should be tight. Yep. So that's pretty much what we'll do from here on out. I think tomorrow what we'll do is we'll start running some of these little branch lines. We'll put in some VAVs, and then we'll show you some flex duct and some grills, and that will be it. you can just experiment with all the rest of those fittings and everything that's in there. You know how to get to them now. Just start drawing, practice drawing, or start making mistakes, figure out how to change them, go on the websites and ask questions, and you should be getting along just fine. It's not an easy program. It's not built for detailing, but you can do it.